This is a quick setup and demo of the funding module and the Open Collective and Open Collective GraphQL client modules. So like any module, we'll just enable them, and funding can be enabled on its own. Out of the box, it provides very simple providers. And let's take a look at funding on its own. There is some configuration for funding. So we go look at settings, we can enable or disable providers, or we can change the order of them, changing the order of rendering. There's also a gallery page where it shows simple examples of what the output will look like. So let's set this up by adding a funding YAML field to a content type. So I'm adding a new field to the basic page. I'm going to choose the funding YAML field. I'm just going to name it funding, with no particular configurations after this. All right. And now if we go add a basic page, we'll see that we've got the funding field. It's got some pretty simple styles to give a sense of tab spaces. So we can add YAML to this field based on what the providers allow. So we can add custom URLs, GitHub stuff, whatever. This select box here at the bottom just hides and shows different examples, so you can see them all. Examples are provided or come from the provider plugin. So, and it should be styled in such a way to where you can cleanly copy and paste from the examples if you want to. Yeah. So there's some of that. Let's just get rid of a few of these. Why not? And click save. Well, let's give it a title. And, oh, I guess you can't have a key twice. That makes perfect sense. Get rid of that and save. All right, and here's the output so far, because there's not that much opinion or thought put into the output yet. That I hope that would be more collaborative. So that's all the funding module does out of the box. Now, if we enable the Open Collective module, it depends on the Open Collective GraphQL. So if I enable Open Collective, I guess I should probably change the description of that module. It will enable the GraphQL client module. Let's go ahead and do that. And now I do have some configuration to do. I believe that is accessible down here. I think it's in both places. Yeah, so there's a configure link, but basically it's configuration, web services, Open Collective, and then everything will appear under Open Collective here. So I go to client settings, and they need to provide an API key, so I will do so. So I've added my API key, and now I'm on the client test form, which is a sibling to the client settings. And I can go ahead and test my API key by finding out who I'm logged in as. I can also run these other simple tests. So the GraphQL client is working. And the Open Collective, oh, let's get that somewhere I can see. The Open Collective module doesn't have any of its own special settings. There is a submodule called Open Collective Webhooks that does have settings, but for now, the top level Open Collective module doesn't. But now but what it does do is it adds funding providers. So if I go to funding settings, I'll see that we have more Open Collective options here at the bottom, more funding providers. Essentially, a funding provider is responsible for a top level key in the YAML. That's what it does. That's what I'm calling a namespace as well. So let's go back to the site. Let's find our page. And now if we edit it, we'll have more examples for all the Open Collective fancy stuff. For example, contributors image is pretty nice. So I grab contributors image example, throw it in here, and let's make this slug Asheville. All of this stuff should validate as well. This isn't just free form. So let's save. So, and I can configure a bit of it. So Open Collective contributors image. Let's see. Well, I am pretty sure there is a height and width. And those should be in the examples. So now I should get an image that matches those dimensions. There we are, and etc. So basically, a funding provider is a plugin type. Out of the box, the funding module provides those basic ones. The goal is to provide these basic ones that to have parity with GitHub's funding.yaml. And then other modules can add their own funding providers. And the Open Collective module brings quite a few. One, for example, is the Open Collective members, which will use the Open Collective API to pull in a list of members and then render them out using Drupal's rendering system. So the funding tools module only has 2 members, and Drupal actual should have a few. And there we are. Again, styling is a work in progress.